So in urology, we diagnose a lot of cancer. And after we do a biopsy, patients usually come back in anywhere from 5 to 10 days later to go over their results. And it takes time to get these results. And when we get these results, we have the patient and their significant others or family come in and we go over the diagnosis. When we're going over the diagnosis, there's the standard questions of what are my options? What are the risks and the benefits of each treatment? How long do I have to live? That's usually a question that comes in. If it doesn't come in, then I actually proactively bring up survival rates based on what pathology I found, whether it's prostate, bladder, kidney. So when it comes time to give out this information, I try to go in as prepared as I can. So we have this thing called a nomogram. So there's these websites where we can punch in the patient's pathology. When it comes to prostate cancer, things like their PSA, their demographics, and then it'll give us a gauge on what would their survival be if they had surgery or radiation, or if they didn't do anything. Would they be a candidate for something called active surveillance, where we just watch the cancer? So I try to go in as prepared as I can for these patients because I want to be ready for any questions. I also want to come off as smart and exude confidence when I'm giving these answers. And I've done this for so long, I kind of know all these numbers by heart by now, but there's still times that I go and refresh my mind because these things can change. Things can be altered year to year to year. But something very interesting happened this week. So a patient came in, diagnosed him with cancer, and before I could even give off the answers, the patient was like, I know, yes, my options are A, B, and C. If I do this, I have an 80% chance of survival. If I do this, I have 90% chance of this. If I do this, I have this percent chance of erectile dysfunction or incontinence or other things. They knew every statistic in the book. They probably knew more than I did. So I asked them. Usually back in the day when patients come in with all this information, they come in with a mound of papers that they printed out. They'll come in with books. They'll come in with all their research. This patient just showed me their phone and they had an AI app where they took a copy of their pathology report because they know their pathology the same time I do, because if they're on the MyChart system that we have, they know the results are in. They put in their information, which they can do because it's their history. And it shot off all these different data and statistics and options. And it just blew my mind. Because to be very honest with you, when a patient comes in with a whole mound of papers like this big to come and see me, I often get nervous. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is gonna be in those papers? But this patient, to be honest with you, didn't scare me. It was pretty cool because all the hard stuff was already done. All this time that I would usually spend researching it on the back end, using what I guess now is antiquated techniques, he used artificial intelligence. He used these AI bots and these chat bots to make him a much more informed patient, a much more informed consumer. So when it came down to our conversation, it was pretty cool because I could just be real with him and I could go into detail on other things and I can answer other questions in much more detail. And it was different, but it was also very refreshing to see how these technologies empower these patients. And if done the right way, which this patient did, he did it the right way and he had the right information that was gathered for him and he had the right statistics, it makes my job easier and it gives us the opportunity to have much more meaningful conversation. But these things can also be very scary. What if in the process the wrong information was put in or the wrong information was given to the patient, and then it's almost like misinformation, but I don't know what will evolve, but I feel like more and more patients are going to be coming in being ready, having utilized these tools. So that makes me think like I really need to engage these same tools in my practices so I can be not one step ahead, but be in the same line as these patients that are going to start coming in, having all this information in their hands. Now, let me tell you this, none of this information is secret or private in any way. Everything that I share with my patients is out there on the open web. What artificial intelligence can't do is have the experience I do with humans and patients, thousands of them. They also don't have the experience surgically and see the complications. But to have that basic foundation, that basic knowledge, I think is really cool for patients. So now from a physician, surgeon, healthcare standpoint, how do we also utilize these tools to better care for our patients? I don't have a good answer for it because I'm still trying to navigate my way through and try to understand how do these technologies work and how can I use them for my workflows. So it's just something I want to share. And if you have any insights or thoughts, or if you've been through this, like, holler, let me know.